Hello, anybody or everybody who could be listening, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Bitchin Millennials. Throughout this podcast, I'm going to have some of my friends, family on here talking about what it's really like to be a millennial in today's society. I feel like in the news, in articles, and anything you read, it's these professionals or people who are not of our generation trying to tell other people what it's like, when really, we're the only ones who really know what it's like and what we're going through on a daily basis. So if you're coming here to just bitch at me for bitching about being a millennial, you can keep on moving. Or if you're thinking this is going to be a crazy, well-edited kind of thing, that's also not going to be it. This is just real talk with real people who are of my generation and the things we have to deal with pretty much on a day-to-day basis. And as you can see around me, I'm doing it from a bedroom currently at my mother's house. So that's where we're going to start off with today. We're going to be starting with my sister Bree, and we're going to be talking a little bit about just college in general and college loans and how it's kind of fucking us over. Alright everybody, I'm back with my sister Bree, and
Hello.
Before we even say anything else, she is not my twin sister. Just my sister. So we're going to talk today about college and student loans, and as I said before, how they're kind of screwing with us, and, just what we kind of have to go through all the time. So our first kind of talking point here is the fact that at least when we were in high school, there was this push for us to go away to college right away. Definitely. And you're 18, some people are still even 17, and it's like, why would they try and force us to do this when we have no idea what we want to do?
Yep. I saw this interesting quote that I thought was just so true. It said, we're expecting kids who a few days ago had to ask permission to use the bathroom to decide what they want to do for the rest of their entire lives.
Yes, exactly. And, I'm almost 30, and I still don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Right, me neither.
Well, when I was 18, and, picking a college, that's not just some thing you do on a whim.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely true, like you said, that there's pressure. There's pressure from everyone around you to pick a college and to go there. There's pressure from all your friends are going away. They want you to go to their college, or even other students are wearing their gear for their college they're going to, and the pride, to the point of the school actually pressuring you. Of you go to a counselor, and in those counseling meetings, it was always about how you get into a college, where are you going. It was never about where you
is best for you,
and I think in this day and age, the social media, which I'm sure comes up a lot in all topics, is a big thing, because that's what kids are thinking about. Even now we do it where it's like, oh, well, I want to be able to post that I'm going to college and I got into a good school and a good major, and I just think it's definitely not expressed that you have way more options. You have trade schools, you can take time off, and I think, like you said, I went to a community college, and I feel like I was almost embarrassed. All my friends were going away,
yes,
and I felt
There's
left behind. Yeah,
yes.
and floundering because there were no other choices, and I didn't know what I wanted to major in.
I did the same thing. We both stayed at home for a year and went to community college, which I think is a great option for anyone.
Oh, yes, do it.
But yes, at least when we were going, there was this stigma. I remember hanging out with people, and they'd be asking me where I went to school, and I'd say the community college in the area, and then one of my friends would always be on the defense, oh, it's not because she's stupid.
Yeah, true, yes.
That shouldn't be,
no,
the mentality. It's of course I'm not stupid. I don't want to spend thousands of dollars taking ridiculous classes that you can take at probably your local community college for, a way cheaper. I don't even know.
Actually, just to point out, between our friends, we got really good grades.
Yeah,
we both did very good in school. But like you said, I push everyone to do the community college. Unless this is what I want to do forever, half the price, and you still get a good education. And
yeah, and lots of community colleges offer decent things that you can do.
Yeah.
They offer a lot of the classes that can transfer. Like, that's what they do. They work with students.
Absolutely,
so
yes.
they can transfer.
Yep.
Or, like, I went and got a certification there. Yep. All totally separate. I do have a bachelor's degree, but I got a separate certification, and that's what I've used for my jobs for the past at least 5 years, and I haven't really used my degree in any way.
I think trades and like things like that should definitely be promoted as an equal option. Maybe they're mentioned as an option, but that's more like you think of like, oh, this person, they couldn't get in anywhere, or...
Right, it's your last option.
Yeah, it's like you feel like you failed, even though you can probably support yourself from some of those jobs better than people that did go to school, depending on what they went to school for, but for some reason still has that stigma of, like, oh, you're a construction worker, like, oh, like, what did you do? Yeah, and I think that's really what we need to get rid of in order for people to see it, and it's just a habit. You see, like, parents at the grocery store, their kids graduated, the first question, oh, where are they going? And even I think as a parents are sometimes almost embarrassed to be like, oh, they're, not going anywhere. But, like, I just think that's an important time to not be pressured into things because you don't know who you are.
Exactly. And that's the thing with community college is, like, they usually have an array of classes that you can take all kinds of different,
Yeah, get to know what you like,
even. Exactly. And
Definitely.
Usually... I don't know, like we said, that just should be more of a option that's out there. And, we're obviously a little bit out of high school now, so maybe that is becoming more of an option.
True.
Hopefully, but that's part of the reason that, like, we and a lot of our friends are in the situation we're in with our student loans because, I only went for a year. I probably could have gone for 2 and been fine, but socially, like you were saying, your friends are out there partying. You want to be out in college, away, partying and doing fun things.
Yes, absolutely. I went for 2 years, which was a good choice, but same thing. I just wanted to. I feel like I was missing out on something, which maybe you are in a way, but at the same time, the important life experiences I think I've gotten out in real life. I didn't, live in a dorm and go party, which visiting my friends, again, I was like, oh, I want to do this, but it should all be about what's best for you. Because I did get a bachelor's online, so I could work.
That's a good idea, too. That's another one people, I think, has a little bit of a stigma, or at least used to.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Yeah, people say, oh, online college. But again, especially if you do make that choice to stay behind a little bit or take a year or 2 off or 5 years off, someone who needs to work, who's a parent. Mm-hmm. That is a great option. Yeah. Usually they're very flexible and very doable.
Yeah, and people will still say, like, oh, is that like a real bachelor's though? And as long as you go to an accredited university, you do have to be careful with that, but as long as it's an accredited, it's, you learn the same stuff as everyone else. It's just a different setting, but I think it has a stigma still with other people and possibly even with employers, but I have been seeing it, like, a lot of universities, like UIC, like bigger schools are offering a lot more online stuff. So hopefully that will go away.
Yeah. Even, like, I was online looking at the community college around here. They offer, like, half online, half classroom.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to do it because I do agree that, it is completely different doing something in person. Mm-hmm. There's no denying that for specific degrees. So I think that's a great way to save money, to be able to work and to kind of balance everything.
Yes. Well, and so, I think what happened too out of high school for us in our generation and even our parents' generation, because our parents' generation, there were, a certain amount of people who went to college and did all that, but a lot of our parents, at least our friends' parents that we know, did not go to college. Or if they did, it was later in life. So this whole loan thing was new to everyone. So I think no one truly knew what the hell we were getting ourselves into. And the interest, and that's the biggest thing too, is that the government should not be making money off of you trying to get an education. Right. It's ridiculous. I haven't even finished paying off my interest. I haven't even started paying off my actual loans yet.
Oh, yeah. The people are well in their 40s without even being close to paying them off. And I think, like you said, for me, that, and I understand schools are on restrictions of what they need to cover and what they don't bother with, but, so I'm not saying the schools are to blame at all, but somewhere up the line, I think that should be worked into curriculum. We don't know anything about how anything works. I remember as a teenager thinking about a credit card, like a young teenager, and being like, well, okay, yeah, it's just money. Like, I just thought you got approved and you get money. Like, you don't learn about paying it off. You don't learn about interest, and I feel like that's huge. You have no idea how it works.
Exactly. Yes.
Or they should kind of give you an idea, like, okay, this is what you want to major in. This is how much you'll make.
Right.
Plus, like, all your expenses.
Which I feel like now someone who has a daughter who's just going away to college I used to work with has that, and they have, like, a full website that you can use for your kids to explain, like, hey, this is the money you're going to owe.
Yes.
And I think that's great, but I also think it's still, like, your kid who's 17, 18, they'll see that number and at least maybe think.
They'll make
But they'll be
money.
like, oh, I'll be fine. Which that's another reason, like, that a lot of our generation is kind of stuck in, like, either renting or having to move back home or doing things like that, because that debt follows you around. Like, I have, compared to other people, not horrible debt, but it's enough that it follows you. And I know people who've tried to buy a house and they look at your loan debt and they're like, huh, nice try. Like, that's not happening. Yeah,
and I've also heard of people where for specific loans, your student loan debt doesn't, like, I don't want to say doesn't count, but basically they ignore it. But then people are like, oh, well, I got approved, I can afford it. But that specific company, that specific loan type, whatever it is, doesn't take that into account, because in certain instances, I guess, they don't use it, like, against you, but then people can't budget because they're like, well, I was approved. And I think, again, like, our generation, what people don't understand that are kind of older and complaining about us all the time, not to get too deep into that, but I'm just throwing it out there, is, first of all, the job market was different when they were young.
Right.
And also, like you said, I think a lot of them didn't go to school, and I think they're kind of trying to, like, work through figuring out how we're in debt. And what the big picture I'm trying to get at that they don't seem to understand is that our entire generation being in this mass amount of debt disrupts everything, the economy. If we had less student loan debt, we'd be more inclined to buy.
We're killing all these
everything.
things.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because we don't have any money.
Yeah, and we, everyone looks for the cheapest option, or, like you said, renting. They have terrible credit. They can't get approved. They don't want to be stuck like they feel like they are. So I think people don't understand. They think, like, oh, they want us to pay off their loans for them, but it's for everybody. I think people forget.
As a whole, it would help. You're right.
Because it's a cycle.
If someone came in to the government, and even if they, like, gave everyone a certain amount that they didn't have to pay back, like, oh, you don't have to pay back 20% of what you owe right now. Like, yeah, that would ultimately help everybody.
Yeah.
Because then, yeah, we'd be more inclined to buy houses, buy more cars.
Have kids, all
these things that people are putting off.
Yes.
And this isn't obviously to say this is every millennial ever.
Right.
There's still people I know who are very successful, and that's great. But
same.
Majority of the people I know, and people who know people, this is the situation.
Definitely.
And the thing, too, is when I graduated college, I knew people who graduated with great grades, had lots of extracurricular, all these things, and it still took them so long to find a real job.
Yep.
Like, the job options, at least when I graduated college, they just weren't totally out there.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, or coming in, especially teachers, would find a job finally, but then because the whole thing we won't even get into about teachers and their salaries and all this stuff, like, they're the first ones to get axed to those first year's teachers. So they're constantly trying to switch and find something steady.
And again, with the whole cycle of money and debt and just all the crisis we have going on, I have a friend who's a teacher saying that she has a job. She's a teacher, obviously, but there aren't a lot of job openings. She said she sees firsthand there's teachers working into their 70s because they need insurance, or they have a lot of debt, or, you know, it can't just retire. Like, you're like, why don't you retire and give someone else a job?
Right.
And I'm currently looking for a job, as you know. And I can tell you, it's not easy. It's rough out there.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And like we were kind of saying earlier, a lot of jobs expect all these things. You have to have so many years experience. You have to have all these extra things. And they're like, oh, but we're going to pay you like $13 an hour. Mm-hmm. It's not, you can't live off that.
No.
Even if you have all these ridiculous requirements that places
And I think that's like a big frustration I have. Again, not getting too deep into it, but with people feeling like we want handouts, for example, is I'm not asking for someone to hand me money. I'm asking that I dug myself into this hole of debt. I spent years of working full-time and going to school and stress and just get through this and everything will get better. And it's kind of like almost assumed, like, not that you should assume that, but that it'll all be worth it. You'll get a good job.
Right.
And again, I know some of that goes down to major, but basically what we're asking for is an opportunity to work hard. We're not saying, everyone pay me for doing nothing. We're saying, hey, I have this great education that I'm in debt for. I'm looking for a chance to show you that I want to work hard and be dedicated to live life.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I know plenty of people who are hard workers, who want to do things like that, who have things to give and offer companies or people. And yeah, you're just not given the opportunity, or this whole, I hate even the word millennial, honestly, because it so like has a negative connotation now, but it's like, I think too, people are confusing like older generations, us, with the newer generation. And not that the younger generation than us is terrible or anything like that, but, like, you know, I think they still think we're, like, 18, 19 years old. Right, it's like, no. We're in our late 20s to early 30s now, and we're still in this rut, a lot of people.
Yes.
And it's like...
enough people to matter.
Exactly.
Let's put it that way.
And I think, you know, like we said earlier, a lot of my friends are having to put things off. Put off getting married. Put off getting a house. Put off having kids because it's just ridiculous. Yeah. And a lot of jobs now, like we were saying, besides having experience and all this stuff, they now, any job that was like a bachelor's degree, now is like, nope, now you need a master's, or now you need a PhD. And all these, I know so many people have to go back for that, and they're still in school. And this is a personal choice, but it's like, I can't imagine going back to school for a third freaking time to get a job. Like, no way.
Yeah, and I think, again, these are just cycles of, okay, so you want us all to go to school, and then we can't really work then, and then it's like, why aren't these people working? And it just keeps coming back to things like that. And yeah, getting a master's is like a commitment. I know multiple people well into their 40s who are still have huge debt, and I think you always think, in most cases, you're going to make a lot more than sometimes you do.
Yes. That's the problem, too, is now, you know, they require all this new stuff, like general jobs and things like that, with the idea, yes, that you're going to be making more money. Even if you do, it's oftentimes, like, you're barely, like, keeping up.
Right.
Like, oh, God, if I didn't have this now, I couldn't live. And that's... Yeah. A lot of people who, like, live in cities. Yeah. Rent's so high and everything's so expensive. Exactly. Yeah, we've both been there. And now people aren't going to believe we're not twins. Yeah. But we've both been there, and we both know that, like, I would get a raise at work or get more hours, and I'd be like, yes, like, finally, like, can start saving and doing all this stuff, and then somehow my bills magically become more. And not even nonsense things, like my health insurance went up, my phone bill, you know, it's just like, wait a minute. Yeah. I guess it's great that I still got this raise, but, like, I'm still in the same place now. Like, I'm not making more money anymore.
Yeah, there's no easy way to advance. And I heard something really interesting on the radio. They were talking about how something's going to have to give. Like, the economy and just the people can't carry on how it is. So it's either going to be we offer way more affordable college somehow. I'm not getting into that, but somehow. And or there is no college and you spend a year or two in internships and you learn on the job. But then those same people who are thinking we want, like, the people that complain about a lot of things, they're the ones that don't want to train people. I'm not going to pinpoint who. But when you go...
Everyone can guess.
When you go to a... That's the reason for all this. Oh, you have to have experience in this. You have to know this. You have to do this. These things could not always easily, but with time and effort with someone, easily be taught. But people don't want to take the time. They want you to come in and know everything, which is fine, but then...
You better pay me for knowing everything.
Yeah, and I feel like you have to have internships, and again, that makes sense, but at the same time, it's like you need experience to get experience. And I think the struggle with me, a big part of it was, how do I get that first chance?
Right.
To get all the other chances
Someone
I need.
needs to help give you that chance.
And some of that is luck, where you find someone either desperate, just to be honest. Yeah. They really need someone, and they're like, well, or you know someone.
Connections, yep.
And that's like, you need that first initial experience. And let me just say that getting an internship is also not easy.
Yep.
There's competition. I applied for an internship. There were 75 applicants applying to work for free just to get something on their resume.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't truly understand that having a degree gets you nothing. Yeah, is basically what it is.
Well, and it is interesting because that was something I was talking to someone else, a person of an older generation, saying, I was like, my bachelor's, they're going to look at it and it's not going to make me stand out. They're going to say, right. Oh, well, you got a bachelor's? Like, here's so does everybody else. Mm-hmm. And then he came back with, well, what if they looked at your resume and saw you didn't? Then they'd be like, how do you not even have a bachelor's degree? And I'm like, I see that too, but that's the whole problem. Is like, and that's part of the reason why, besides your job requiring it, people feel they have to go for their master's. But like you said, where does it end? Soon everyone will have a master's, and then and then what? Everyone's still in the same. Like, you can't get ahead or branch out or do something different. Mm-hmm. So, like, where do you go from here?
And that's, I think, what the whole thing is we can't continue like this.
Exactly.
And like you said, obviously we know it works out for some people. Like, obviously some people are successful, and that's good. That's great to see. Yeah. It gives you hope.
Like, yay.
But there are enough of people that this is affecting the way that everybody lives.
Yes.
So.
Definitely. People who sell diamonds are all pissed off because no one wants to buy diamonds.
True. Especially because people get killed for diamonds.
Well, even if they didn't, I think it's one of those things that's, like you said, people look for a cheaper option. Mm-hmm. And we try and cut out unnecessary things, and we're still stuck.
Yeah, and what's interesting, just really quickly going back to, like, applying for jobs, is another big thing I'm seeing, because the whole, people aren't just going to hand you stuff. That's fine. I never expected that.
Yeah.
But a lot of jobs, two new things I've seen is, one, they say in bold, you will be contacted if we are interested. Yes. Please do not call, no calls accepted. Or, this is even newer that I've seen in jobs I'm applying for, anonymous. Meaning they'll give you the city and what the job is, and they don't even tell you the company name.
Wow. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
I applied for a publishing company in Arlington Heights, and that's all the info they give, and it says company name will be provided if you're chosen for an interview. So the job market is not what it used to be. I take initiative in life, but these people are kind of like, leave us alone. Yeah. Either making it literally impossible, or if you do call, I've called places and just kind of been blown off, like asked to speak to a manager or the hiring person. They're like, oh, well, I'll just take a message.
Right. Well, I know, like, Mom has said, like, oh, why don't you walk in somewhere and hand them your resume? And if you do that, like 95% of places anywhere, they're going to be like, either A, like, why are you giving this to me? Or B, they're going to be like, I want that online. Like, I've had that happen to me when I was living in the city. I had tried to go into the place, and they're like, there's a reason we put it online, you know? So instead of looking like you're trying to really go for it, you're looking annoying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's, like, a terrible line that I never want to cross, of, like, I want to take initiative, but I don't want them to be like, it specifically says don't.
Yeah, like, do you not know how to read?
Yeah, so I think
Follow
to a point, and based off of like bosses that I've had, and when you see what goes on behind the scenes, I'm like, yeah, I don't think they want someone calling 6 times a day, unless it doesn't say, if there's nothing that says like, don't call. Yeah, then I think it's good. But again, that's just like it's hard to know what people want, if that would help or hinder you. So
I remember Mom telling us how when she worked for a big company, like, she called almost every day after she sent her resume and gave it to them and all this stuff, and she got the job. And it's just like, for most things, that's not...
No, I actually did that recently. I applied...
Yeah.
I do that a lot, but no. I went and handed my resume, and there was a position online, and I read it all, and it gave where it was, and I went there and handed it to someone, and she was like, are we hiring? And they like had no idea even that they were hiring, I guess. And I was like, oh, and then someone's like, oh yeah, we are. And she's like, okay, well, I'll just like put this, who knows yeah, who knows where it went. So that definitely has changed too.
Yeah, so lots of things that, you think you're safe getting a degree of some sort, and
it's also the internet has made, like, okay, let's take our parents' generation, for example. You apply to jobs that are in your area, that you hear about or you see hiring, that you didn't go online, to where now people will relocate for good jobs.
Right.
People, I live in wherever.
Small city.
Small town. But, for example, and it's like, I could apply for a job anywhere. I could find a job in Portland, just because I like Portland, that someone else really needs there, but I'm like, well, if you're going to pay me well, I'll relocate.
Right.
So there's a lot more competition.
Moving,
yeah, there's a lot more people hearing about these positions, and I think there's a lot more, people bouncing around for sure, because once you do get a job, a lot of people don't stay there for various reasons too. So
yes, that's true too. It's a lot harder, it seems like, to move up in position at jobs, and that's another reason. People leave and are constantly moving because they aren't getting paid, or they're not getting the opportunities while they're already there. So
that's terrible.
Hopefully this next generation, something changes, because if it stays the way like this, and we have a whole new wave of people coming in trying to get into the job market, it's just not going to work.
Well, and that's when people are like, well, we're fine, we're making it, everything's fine. It's like, for me, I'm always looking towards the future. Like, if, let's say, right now we pay off our student loans and it takes forever, but we do it. And then if we have kids in the future, if they get free college, I would be ecstatic. If I don't have kids and all my friends have kids, I want to see the next people be successful. I don't want people to struggle the way that we've experienced. And it truly affects every aspect of your life, having debt like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like a shadow looming over you in anything you do.
That's exactly what it is. Anything you try and go do that's productive or positive in some way, like buying a house, whatever, then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot, I still owe all this money. Mm-hmm. And I feel like even if you pay it off, unless you're someone who can afford to pay it off fairly quickly, like, that's great. Yeah. Most people cannot. It's like you get a chunk of it done, and you're just like, what a freaking waste of my money.
Yeah.
And I'm barely being able to make a minimum payment on this.
Yeah, maybe you should not have to pay them till you get a good job in your field. And then you can pay them back.
Just die, never having worked in the field. Yeah. But new plan, everybody. Just don't work until you die.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
but
or just don't go away to college.
Yeah, true. That's what I'm experiencing now. I'm like, well, now my loans are out of the grace period, and I have a job, getting some experience, and that's kind of what I ended up doing, is taking a job that doesn't pay very much, but I can use as experience.
Right.
But I've been there for a year now, and I apply for, just throw a number out there, probably like 6 jobs a week, let's say.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And even with that experience on there, and I was in, like, our academic sorority, and I was on the honor roll or the dean's list every single semester, and I graduated with 3.9 GPA.
Wow, over
I'm just throwing it out there.
No, I know.
And I built like an online portfolio that I connect to my resumes, and it just doesn't matter sometimes. There's just so many people out there.
Yeah.
And too much new stuff constantly changing to where, like, what I know, it changes too fast. Like, I'm scared because I've been out of school since October, that by the time someone looks at my resume, they'll be like, oh, you don't know this program? You didn't do this in school? Right. To where I feel a stress, like it's like a race. Like, okay, I still say recent graduate.
Right.
Where it's like, yeah, I recently graduated, because I feel like it's a race to where people are going to be like, oh, well, you haven't worked in your field directly since you graduated years and years ago, so...
Right. And that's where I'm at. I have 0 working experience with my degree because it was so specific, and it's one of those things that requires you now to have a master's. And at this point, it might even be more than that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I cannot go back to school and acquire more debt in hopes of getting this specific type of job.
And that's the most frustrating thing is, so I got my associates, took a couple year gap, and I got a job, worked full-time, still couldn't advance anywhere in life working full-time. And I was like, okay, well, I know this isn't the life I'm trying to build. I'm not trying to stress every single day about money. Check my account before I buy a candy bar. Like, oh, do I have money after paying my bills? So to me, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to work full-time. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to push through it to better myself. And I think that's why I hate when it gets so much negativity that we're in this position, is we're trying to better ourselves. We're not in debt from drugs or from buying 7 cars. Yeah, it's like I thought this was a good opportunity to better myself, and hopefully it still will end up being.
Well, and that's also slightly off topic, but like I think we also, our generation, saw our parents, and like a lot of our parents, people that we know, had or still have these jobs that they don't care about, or they even maybe hate, but they know that's all they can do, or they've been there so long now that it's just they can't do anything else. And I think our generation, we're hoping with college that we wouldn't be stuck in some job for years and years and years.
They hate growing miserable every day.
And some people might have achieved that. Some people probably, enjoy their job, but I know plenty of people, again, who are just working at some random place, or it's something kind of to do with their degree, but again, they can't advance to what they want to do, and so we just all don't want to be miserable, and it's really just everyone's trying to bring us down for that.
I know, and that's a huge part of it.
It's so hard to enjoy life.
Yeah, and if you, we just want, like you said, not be miserable. If you're miserable at your job, you're miserable everywhere.
Exactly.
You're miserable on your way home.
And
you're miserable when you get home.
What's the point of life in general?
Yeah, that's what I always say.
And constitutionally, you have the right to the pursuit of happiness.
True. We out here trying.
Yeah, and so you don't have to put us in debt for that. Everyone, government, whoever, society.
Yeah, and that is a huge thing. Is we get hated on for being snowflakes and so emotional. Really rooting from, we just want everyone to be nice. Like, we don't want to be miserable. We don't want the world to be miserable.
Enjoy our lives.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like that'd be for the greater good. Everyone's even just a fraction happier.
Right.
We wouldn't have such a big societal mess.
Absolutely.
But that's getting totally
we don't want to plunge over there.
Yeah, but so we'll kind of wrap this up today by just saying that, in my future, with my kids, assuming I have multiple kids, I would not force them to go away to college. If they happen to know, they've always loved animals, they want to be a vet, they're gung-ho, then fine, we'll find you a good college and deal with the loans or figure something out. But if they don't know, like most teenagers probably don't, then either you're just not going to school at all, or you're just going to community college. Like, I'm not going to, force you.
That's good, yeah. Me and my husband, we always promote community college. We both went to community college. You did, his sister did, and seeing, like, people we know from work, used to work with a lot of young people, just like, just go to community college. Because you know what? I knew what I wanted to do. enrolled at a university, picked my housing, had my... And then a week before, I'm like, oh my god, I don't think that... And now I'm doing nothing related to that. So definitely we need to just either mind our own business or start asking different questions when people are in life. Like,
yes,
don't just assume, where are you going to school?
Right.
You don't even have to ask people what they're doing.
Graduated high school. What are your plans now?
Yeah, or congratulations.
Yes, and then walk
you
away.
Do you.
Or hand me some money. Whatever.
True.
Help me out here. Help my kid out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you to anyone who might have listened to our episode today.
Yes.
Feel free to let us know or let me know if I'm open to if people have ideas on how to help with this situation.
Definitely,
or things they found useful. I'm not just trying to do this podcast just to give it to people and just be annoying, but which people probably already think I am. But if you have a way that's helping you or that you have an idea that you want to share, just let me know. When I post this, I'll have an email. You can always email me and we can chat. Thanks, everyone.